MA Philosophy, MAPY, MPYE-001 Logic. Unit number 1. Types of categorical propositions AEIO and square of opposition. Unit number 1. Types of categorical prepositions AEI and O, square of opposition. Objectives. First objective of this unit is to introduce you to the elements of categorical propositions. This is intended to be achieved through the introduction of the nature of terms and their distinction from words. The second objective is to establish an important distinction between sentences and proposition. The last but not the least objective is to familiarize you with certain forms of logical relations and immediate inference, which should in turn enable you to establish and discover certain other important logical relations. Introduction. As a form of critical thinking, logic has its origin in several ancient civilizations like Indian, Chinese, Greek, and in the etc. In the Western tradition, logic was systematized by Aristotle, and hence he is credited with its origin. Logic, the tool of distinguishing between the true and the false, Averroes examines the general forms which arguments may take and distinguishes between valid and invalid arguments. And arguments consist of two sets of statements called promise and pro, called premise or premises on the one hand, and the conclusion on the other. The premises are designed to support the conclusion. The presence of this complex relation, also called inference, makes a group of statements and an argument, and with which logic is concerned. Thus, mere collection of propositions does not constitute an argument when this relation is absent. In this unit, we shall confine ourselves to an analysis of terms and propositions which are based to our study of logic, and postpone a detailed study of inference to the next unit. Terms and their kinds. Logic makes a sharp distinction between words and terms. All words are not terms, but all terms are words. Terms refer to specific classes of objects or qualities, whereas words refer to none of them. Further, a term may consist of more than one word. Table, planet, etc. are terms which consist of one word only. The author of Hamlet is a term which consists of four words. Words in different languages may express the same term. Tree, vriksha, etc. While there is only one term in this example, there are two words. Traditional logic has recognized different kinds of term. A brief description of kinds of term throws some light on the way in which traditional logic understood term. Positive and negative. Positive term signifies the presence of desirable qualities, as light, health, etc. Negative term signifies generally undesirable qualities or qualities not desired, rightly or wrongly. The clearest negative terms are those with the negative prefix in or im, dis, etc. Inefficient, dishonest, etc. are negative terms. However, it is not always the case. For example, immortal, invaluable, discovered, to name the a few, surely are not negative. Therefore, that constitute a negative term is essentially our attitude in particular and custom in general. In other words, the distinction is not really logical, but it has something to do with value or judgment. That is why some words without such prefixes are regarded as negative, since they too imply negation, darkness, absence of light. Concrete and abstract. Concrete terms are those which refers to perceptible entities. abstract terms Abstract terms are those which do not man, animal, tail, etc. Are concrete terms mankind, animalism, etc. Are abstract terms. However, this classification depends upon use. For example, the word humanity is used not only to mean individual men but also the quality of men. Hence, use or meaning determines the class. Relative and absolute. Relative terms are those which express a relation between two and more than two person or things, as father, son, etc. Absolute terms do not express such relation, as a nationality, cone, etc. Comparative terms are obviously relative, larger, prettier, etc. Singular and general. Singular terms denotes specific objects. It points to one object only. All proper names are singular terms. Russellian proper names are also counted among singular terms. The author of Principia Mathematica, the farthest planet from the sun, are singular terms. General terms are just class names. Vegetable, criminal, politicians, etc. are examples for general terms. Univocal and equivocal terms. Univocal terms carry only one meaning. Entropy is an example for univocal term. Equivocal terms are burdened with at least two meaning. Gravity is equivocal, so is astronomical. When natural language becomes the medium of expression, equivocal terms pose hurdles in determining the validity of arguments, because such terms cause ambiguous structure of statements. Therefore, in our study of logic, we must ensure that the arguments consist of only unambiguous terms. Later we will come to know that symbolic logic became indispensable precisely for this reason. Denotations and connotations of terms. By denotations of terms, we mean that the number of individuals to which the term is applied or extended. For example, society denotes the human society, a philanthropic society, the society of Jesus, a political society, or a state, etc. Another word used for denotation is extension. By connotation or intension of a term, we mean the complete meaning of a term as expressed by the subtotal of its essential as opposed to accidental characteristics. For example, consider the same crowd does not mean the same as society because it lacks their characteristics. Complete meaning therefore excludes accidental and figurative characteristics. The latter is misleading in the sense that it is not a characteristic uh, at all in the strict sense of the term. Denotation and connotation together determine what is called class or set of objects. Therefore, every term stands for one class or the other. In scholasticism, connotations and denotations are reserved for term and comprehension, and extension for concepts of which terms are signs or expressions. Note that the word connotation may vary in meaning from time to time. For example, politician may acquire a different meaning in different societies at given point of time, or in the same society at different points of time. Therefore, connotations is only conventional. It is clear that greater the connotations intense of a term, smaller the denotation extension, and conversely, greater the denotation, smaller the connotation. For example, the term being connotes simply existence and can be extended to everything that exists: man, animal, plant, stone, etc. But as soon as I say a human being, thus increasing the connotations human and being, and the term includes only human beings, not others. Oriental human being is still less extensive. For the term cannot be applied to Westerners. This is called the law of inverse variation. Meaning and supposition of term. This is a subtle difference between meaning and supposition. Meaning is what convention accepts. Therefore, many words have more than one meaning because convention is always inaccurate. Citus is one such word which has several meanings, like covered, portico used for exercise by the athletes in antiquity, a garden walk on terrace, etc. Likewise, supposition of a word is the function or the use of a word which depends upon the intention of the speaker. Therefore, meaning is objective, whereas whereas supposition is subjective. The scholastics understood supponent as the one which stands for the concept. Propositions. In the previous section, we came to know that all terms are words, but all words are not terms. Similarly, all prepositions are sentences, but all sentences are not prepositions. Only those sentences are prepositions which grammar regards as assertive. A proposition is always either true or false, but not both. And no proposition is neither true or nor false. This means to say that a proposition is a declarative sentence which gives certain information, and it is this information which makes a proposition true or false. It is equally important to note that there is no need to know whether a given proposition is true or false. Whether several sentences may express one proposition. Consider these group of sentences. Number one, jealousy, thy name is woman. Number second, what is wrong with your car? Number three, copper sulfate is an organic compound. Number four, Newton wrote optics. Number cogito ergo sum. Number two, I think, therefore I am. In group A, first two sentences are not assertive sentences. The first sentence is misleading. It appears to be an assertive, but in reality it is not. Sentences which express emotional outbursts are more or less exclamatory. The third sentence is false, whereas the fourth sentence is true. Group B consists of two sentences which belong to different languages but give the same meaning. Within the same language also, it is impossible to have two sentences which give the same meaning. Consider this group. Number one, Rama killed Ravana. Ravana was killed by Ram. Sentences in B and C group shows that a proposition in is the meaning of a sentence. Although several sentences can give one meaning, it is impossible in an ambiguous system to have one sentence with more than one meaning. A new word is introduced in this point. The truth value of true proposition is said to be true, and that of a false proposition is said to be false. Here, afterwards, we frequently employ this term in our study. Let us turn to Aristotelian analysis of preposition. A preposition consists of two terms in his system. The term class about which the proposition asserts something is called subject S, and what is said about it is called predicate P. S and P are to be regarded as S class and P class respectively. In a proposition, these are related using the verb of the form to be called copula, which must be always in the present tense. According to Aristotle, a sentence becomes a proposition only when it meets all these requirements, not otherwise. It is obvious that only the first example considered above, A3, falls within the limits of Aristotelian system. This sort of restriction severely thwarted further progress of logic. Traditional logic considers two kinds of propositions: categorical, unconditional, and conditional. Assertion is of two types: affirmation and negation. Affirmation or negation is made in the former without stating any condition, whereas in the later it is stated with condition or conditions. Initially, we shall restrict ourselves to the former kind. Affirmation or negation is possible in this category in two ways: total or partial. If P is affirmed or negated of the whole class of yes, then it is a total. On the other hand, if affirmation or negation applies to only a part of the class, then it is partial. Consequently, we obtain our kinds of categorical propositions. Number one, universal affirmative, total affirmation. Number two, universal negative, total negation. Number three, particular affirmative, partial affirmation. Number four, particular negative, partial negation. For the sake of simplicity and brevity in logic, these two are very important. These four kinds are third kind respectively and similarly. From nego, another Greek word, we choose e and o to represent second and fourth kind respectively. It is a mere convention to prefix yes and suffix p to a, e, I and o. In modern parlance, the first letter of S term and of P term are used in place of yes and t. Each kind is illustrated below. S copula P. Number one, all scientific theories are improvable. Universal affirmative SAI. Second, no celestial bodies are static. Universal negative CES. Some Number three, some fruits are bitter. Particular affirmative FIV. Number four, some chemicals are not toxic. Particular negative COT. The distinction between universal and particular depends upon what is called quantity and the one between affirmative and negative on what is called quality. Not much discussion is needed to know what quality is. If any negative word like no, not, etc. occurs in the proposition 2 and 3, then quality is negative. Otherwise, it is affirmative. A word of caution is required. Sometimes predicate carries negative force, but it does not make the quality of preposition negative. For example, dishonest, non-natural, etc. constitute terms in their own right. They have nothing to do with the quality of preposition. Consider these two propositions. Number five, Shakuni is dishonest. Number six, telepathy is a non-natural phenomena. These propositions are affirmative only. It means that a proposition is negative only when negative word is a part of copula. However, quantity of propositions needs elaborate explanation, which becomes intangible only after explanation of what is called the distribution of terms. Distribution of terms is an indispensable concept in Aristotelian logic. A term is said to be distributed if the proposition in which it occurs either includes or excludes the said term completely. Inclusion or exclusion is complete provided the proposition refers to every member of the class. If so, when is it said to be undistributed? Suppose then n is the number of members in a given class. If the proposition includes or excludes n numbers of the particular class, say s, then s is said to be undistributed. Let us turn to the pattern of distribution in categorical propositions. Quantity of any proposition is determined by the extension or magnitude of yes, the member the number of elements in the given set, and a term acquires magnitude only when it is a component of a proposition. Only sets have magnitude. This is so as far as logic is concerned. A set is defined as the collection of well defined elements as its members. A null set or an empty set does not have any element. Let us assume that that term is synonymous with set. Then we can accept that a term has magnitude. If magnitude of any term is total in terms of reference, then it is said that the term is distributed. If magnitude is incomplete, then that term is undistributed. It shows that any term is distributed only when the entire set is either included or excluded in such a way that not a single member is left out. This is another way of explicating what complete magnitude means. All universal prepositions distribute all universal prepositions distribute S, whereas particular prepositions do not. Just as distribution is explicated Under distribution also must be explicated. A term is uh, a term is undistributed only when inclusion or exclusion is partial. The meaning of partial inclusion or exclusion is again repeated but in a very different manner. Let us attempt a formal explication of the same. Let the magnitude of S be x. Let S star to be read as star denotes that part of S which is included in or excluded by a proposition. Now the formula which represents the undistribution of S can be represented as follows. X is less than S star less than equal to 1. This is one sentence. This is the way to read 1. The modulus of x is greater than s star greater than or equal to 1. It is highly rewarding to use set theory here. 1 indicates that s star is a proper subset of s. Therefore, its magnitude must be smaller than that of x, which is the magnitude of s. However, s star is not a null set. Uh, Sentence 1 shows that there exists at least one member in S star. In the case of undistribution, therefore, the magnitude of S star varies between 1 and x minus 1. Now it is clear that in A and E, S is distributed, and while in I and O, it is undistributed. Just to complete this aspect, let us state that all affirmative propositions undistribute P, whereas all negative propositions distribute P. A far better way of presenting the distribution of terms was invented by Euler, a 18th Swiss mathematician, and later John Wayne, a 19th century British mathematicians improvised the representation further. An understanding of the techniques adopted by them presupposes some aspects of set theory. Let S and P be non-null, non-empty sets with elements as mentioned below. It is important that the status of set must be mentioned invariably, null or non-null. The following pairs shall be considered. Number 1, S is equal to A, B, C, D, E, F. P is equal to G, H, I, J, K. All letters within parentheses are elements of respective sets. In the first grouping, there is no common element. Now consider following grouping: 2 S A B C D E F. P is equal to A B C D E F G H I. Number 3, S is equal to A B C D E F. P is equal to B C D G H. Number 4, S is equal to A B C D E F. S star is equal to A B C. P is equal to M N G H. Number 5, S is equal to A B C D E. Number P is equal to A B C D E. Fifth group is unique in the sense that these two sets possess exactly the same elements. Therefore, the magnitude of these sets also remains the same. Such sets are called identical sets. Identity of elements and also the equality of magnitude make sets identical. In 1908, Germelo proposed what is called axiomatic set theory. One of the principal axioms of this theory is known as the axiom of extension or extensionality. This axiom helps us to understand the structure of identical sets. This theory was modified later by Frankel and T. Skolem. Let us call this theory Germelo Frankel Skolem theory, ZFS theory. This theory states the above mentioned axiom as follows: ZFSI, if A and B are non-null sets and if for all XX for all x element of A if x, if and only if x and x is element of B, then A identical B. Symbolically, it is represented as follows. A is a set and B is a set, and x for all values of x is element of A if and only if x is element of B. If then A identical B. The summary of this formula is very simple. When whatever description applies to S, here A also applies to P, here B. When distribution of term is examined, the magnitude and elements of sets also examined. Therefore, it is wrong to assert that when S and P are identical sets, P is undistributed in A. Let us designate this type of proposition as A plus read A cross. Consider these two propositions. 7. All bachelors are unmarried men. BAU. 8. All spinsters are unmarried women. SAU. SEP. S is equal to A B C D E F. P is equal to GHI J K. So S, now we are in the position. S is equal to A B C D E F. P is equal to third number है SIP. S is equal to A B C D E F. P is equal to B C D G H I. S is SP is equal to B C D SOP. S star is equal to ABC. P is equal to MNGH. Now we are in position to examine the fourth group. It requires a detailed explanation to understand the status of O with regard to distribution. In this instance, S star is incomplete, undistributed, and P is completely excluded by S star. It shows that P is distributed. Let us see how this happens. Let S is equal to A B C D E F. Let S star A B C. There is no information on D E F. S star is smaller than or equal to S. It is also means that S is only a subset, not a proper subset of S. Let S minus S star is equal to S star star is less than or equal to P, or S is equal to S star plus S star star. Square of opposition. Square of opposition. This is one type of immediate inference because in this type of inference conclusion is drawn from one premise only. Education is another word used for immediate inference. Opposition is a kind of logical relation wherein propositions stand against one another in terms of truth value when they have the same subject and the same predicate but differ in quantity or quality or both. Traditional logic Traditional logic called this relation square of opposition because these relations are represented by a square. Four such relations are discussed in Aristotelian system. Number one, contradiction. When two propositions differ in both quantity and quality, the relation is called contradiction. As all men are wise. Number one, some men are not wise. O A, some men are not wise. O, it is the most complete form of logical opposition because they are neither true nor false together. If if one is true, the other is necessarily false, and vice versa. This sort of self-contradiction is due to in incompatibility between respective statements. Similarly, the statements "no men are wise," e "some men are wise," I are contradictory. Second, contrary. When two universal propositions differ only in quality, the opposition is called contrary. As all men are wise, A, no men are wise, E. By definition, both contraries can be false, precisely as in the example given, but they cannot be true at the same time. If one of them is true, the other must necessarily be false, but if one is false, the other may be true or false. One kind of proposition called singular proposition, also called simple, whose yes is proper name, has no contrary and its contradiction differs only in quality. One example is Joe is bad, Joe is not bad. Another example is the author of Hamlet is an Englishman and the author of Hamlet is not an Englishman. 3. Subcontrary. When two particular propositions differ only in quality, the opposition is called subcontrary. As some men are wise, I, some men are not wise, O, contrary propositions can be true together, as in the example given, but they cannot be false at the same time. If one of them is true, the other may be true or false. But if one of them is false, the other must necessarily be true. The inverse order of contrary and subcontrary propositions is evident. Number 4, alternation. When two propositions differ only in one is a one is universal and the other is particular. The opposition is called subalternation. As all men are wise, A, some men are wise, I. Notice that subaltern propositions can be true together or false together. And this is to say that though from the truth of the universal one can infer the truth of the particular, the reverse order does not hold, namely that from the truth of the particular one cannot infer the truth of the universal. On the other hand, though from the falsity of the particular one can infer the falsity of the universal, one cannot infer the falsity of the particular from the falsity of the universal. This type of relation is expressed in the form of a square. Every S is P, no S is P, subaltern, some S is not P, subcontraries, some S is P, subaltern, every S is P. The following two schemes and one diagram offer visual aid to retain more easily in mind what we have just said about the opposition of prepositions. For the sake of the For the sake of simplicity, the truth relation which holds good between various relations is provided in a nutshell. Inferences is subalternation. From truth of universal, truth of particular. From truth of particular, truth of universal. From falsity of particular, falsity of universal. From falsity of universal, cannot infer falsity of particular. Inferences in subalternation from truth of universal can infer truth of particular. From truth of particular cannot infer truth of universal. From falsity of particular can infer falsity of universal. From falsity of universal cannot infer falsity of particular. Number second, mnemonic device for remembering the square of opposition. Lander University, Greenwood. A. If you picture God at the top of the square of opposition and the devil at the bottom of the square and remember the phrase, both cannot be, for contraries and subcontraries. The following mnemonic device might be helpful. Number B. The big X across the center of the square represents contradictories with opposite truth values. This should be very easy to remember. C. Since God or truth is at the top of the diagram, both contraries cannot be true. D. Since the devil or falsity is at the bottom of the diagram, both contraries cannot be false. E. With subalternation, God can send truth down. But we cannot know what it means for God to send falsity down. Hence, this would be indeterminate. But the devil can send falsely up, since this is what devil are good at, and we cannot know what it means for the devil to send truth up. So this relation is indeterminate. Number three, bouncing around the square of opposition. Suppose we know that O some S is not P is false. In how many ways can we determine the truth value of one some S is P? There are four ways of determining the truth value. These four ways consist in traveling between different points. Here the propositions are points. The four routes are as follows. The four routes are as follows. Notice that we could set an itinerary of our journey along the selected four routes. The reason given below is, so to speak, our inference ticket for travel. CF Lander University, Greenwood. Originating point through terminating point. SOP direct SIP. SOP SEP SIP. SOP SAP to SEP SIP. SOP SEP and SAP SIP. Statement of reason true value. Some S is not P given false. Second, some S is P contrary true. O to I through E. Some S is not P given false. No S is P subalternation false. At this stage, it is important to become familiar with two other type of relation called conversion and aversion. They are also known as equivalent relation because the truth value of both the premise and the conclusion remains the same. If the premise is true, the conclusion is true, and if the premise is false, the conclusion is also false. When there is a change in the structure of sentences, on some occasions meaning remains unchanged. It only means that the very same information is provided in different ways. Recognition of this simple fact help us in testing accurately the validity of argument and also in avoiding confusions. There are two primary forms of equivalent relation: conversion and aversion. The conclusion in conversion is called converse, and in aversion obverse. The process of conversion and aversion are quite simple. These operations deserve a close scrutiny. Conversion. This is governed by three laws. One law, S and P must be transposed. After transposition, P becomes subject and S becomes predicate. This is the first stage. Second law, quality of propositions should remain constant. If the premise is affirmative, the conclusion must be affirmative. If the premise is negative, the conclusion must be negative. Third law, a term which is undistributed in the premise should remain undistributed in the conclusion. It can be stated in another way also. A term can be distributed in the conclusion only if it is distributed in the premise. However, a term which is distributed in the premise may not be distributed in the conclusion. The following example illustrate these rules. Number 10, all philosophers are kings. PAK. Converse, some kings are philosophers. KIP. 11, no vegetable are harmful. VEH. Converse, no harmful things are vegetables. HEB. 12, some women are talkative. WIT. Converse, some talkative people are women. TIW. There are three aspects to be noted. Conversion of A is conversion by limitation because the quantity is reduced from universal to particular after conversion. Secondly, the conversion of E and I is simple because in these cases S and P are just transposed and had no other change takes place. Thirdly, while A, E, and I have conversion, O does not have conversion. What happens when A undergoes simple conversion and O is converted? In these cases, conversion leads to a fallacy called fallacy of illicit conversion. Fallacy in formal logic arises when the rule is violated. In both these cases, conversion violates a rule or rules. Consider these statements. 13, all Europeans are white, so all white people are Europeans. 14, some gods are not powerful, so some powerful beings are not gods. Conversion in these two cases is invalid because the terms white and gods are distributed in the respective conclusion while they are undistributed in the respective premises. This type of the conversion violates the third law. The term while and gods remains undistributed in the premises since the former is the predicate of an affirmative premise while the latter is the subject of a particular premise. If we obtain affirmative converse from a negative premise in order to undistribute predicate them, then we violate the second law of conversion. If it only means that when A undergoes simple conversion and when O is converted. In the case of A, the third law is violated, and in the case of O, second or third law of conversion. As the case maybe is violated, therefore A becomes I after conversion, and O has no conversion or version. This is one unit. This is one technique of preserving the meaning of a statement after effecting change of quality. The procedure is very simple. Change the quality of the promise and simultaneously replace the predicate by its complementary. We apply this law to the premises A, E, I, and O to obtain the conclusions. The conclusion is called obversion. 15. All players are experts. PAE. No players are non-expert. PAE dash. 16. No musicians are novelists. MEN. So all musicians are non-novelists. MAN. 17. Some scholars are women. SIW. Some scholars are not women. SOW. 18. Some strangers are not helpful. SOH. So some strangers are not helpful. Some strangers are not helpful. SIH. Let us sum up. The basic units of arguments are terms and propositions. All words are not terms. All terms are words. All sciences are not propositions. All propositions are sentences. A subject and predicate are the constituents of categorical proposition. According to Aristotle, there are four kinds of categorical proposition. Distribution of a term means total extension, Euler, and when interpreted, distribution grammatically, square of proposition, conversion, and obversion are three kinds of immediate inference. Term keywords. Supposition. A supposition of a word is the function or of the function or the use of the word has in a presupposition depending on the intention of the speaker. Term. Any word or group of words that stands for the subject or the predicate of a preposition. Preposition. A statement affirming or denying something of somebody. Categorical preposition. It is a preposition in which the predicate is affirmed and or denied unconditionally or of all or part of the subject. Copula. A copula joins the subject and the predicate of the preposition. Normally, it is the verb is or is not. Thank you.